Well, it was better, but it wasn't that much better. Norwich City have drawn 1-1 with Wigan Athletic in their second championship game of the season and their first home game. And there were certainly some positive signs, the likes of which we didn't really see at Cardiff last week. But there were also some worrying signs. And at the end of the day, the result is a 1-1 against Wigan Athletic for the side who were the championship favourites going into the season. And that's never really good news. I don't want to be too negative. I had a sort of 18-minute almost rant in South Wales last week, and it's probably fair to shift the narrative slightly on from that. Don't want to be overly negative, and I think if Norwich were top of the league at the moment, it's one of those performances where you'd say, these things happen, they got unlucky. And there were reasons for that, a sloppy individual error to concede a goal, arguably a few penalty decisions that we're going to get into that Dean Smith certainly wasn't shy about getting into, nor was Max Aarons when I just spoke to them. And I think there are some mitigating circumstances. There are some encouraging debuts. Even Gabriel Sara's sort of 10 minutes of added time that he got as a substitute, they were quite encouraging, even for a player who's been out of match action since April. Marcelino Núñez, I thought, did some really good things in the first half. So we'll get into those. But I think, to start from the beginning of the game, Norwich were absolutely dominant, and they went after it like I've not seen them go after it since probably the 2020-21 season, to be honest. It was really encouraging to see them surround the opposition box like they did. I haven't seen them do that under Dean Smith, and it was a unique feeling to have Carrow Road behind a team that's attacking, that's trying to score a goal, that's trying to be proactive, trying to find a solution to create chances. And I thought for the first 29 minutes, that was exactly what Norwich were. Unfortunately for them, Ben Gibson, who, to be fair to him, hasn't had a lot of match action in the last few months, only had a little bit of pre-season, and he was thrust in because Grant Hanley was suspended thanks to his red card at Cardiff. And he's made an individual error that's effectively cost Norwich 3 points, in my opinion. Well, in some senses, because when that goal went in, Norwich were in the ascendancy, and they'd had all the encouragement they needed to suggest they were going to go on and get the 3 points, and that they had enough to create chances to score 2 goals. But the reaction wasn't like that. The reaction was like a team last season, who knew once they went a goal down, they were probably going to lose, which was really strange to see, but also totally understandable because of the confidence issues that are, that of course they're running through this Norwich team at the moment. They were miserably relegated last season. They had a really poor start last week, and so you could just really see that fragility in terms of the confidence once they conceded that goal. And the urgency, the endeavour, even some of the patience at times to move the ball around and try and move Wigan around before trying to play that final pass, it went. And where before you would have Todd Cantwell into Marcelino Núñez, into Rashica, Pukki, trying to find balls around the box, it felt like it got to one midfielder and they thought, now's the time, I need to sort this immediately. And they tried the pass and it just didn't come off, and it was too easy for Wigan to play the way they wanted to, which was to sit behind the ball, defend for their lives. And it's totally understandable because this is a side that's just been in League One against a side that's just been in the Premier League, and the gulf is enormous. You look at some of their probably best paid players and most expensive players, and it's the likes of Max Power, Will Keane, and then you look at Norwich, who have just spent 10 million plus, or there's a potential for the deal to be 10 million plus for a player like Gabriel Sara, on the top of £3.3 million for Marcelino Núñez, etc., and you can see why they played like that. And Norwich just didn't know how to find the balance between being patient and just going for it immediately for a little bit. I thought once they got in at half time, Dean Smith must have had some words about how they could do that better, because when they came out for the second half, I thought there was a good mix of urgency and patience, and I thought they were a lot better in the second half. That was also partly due to the introduction of Ono Hernandez, who I thought was really good. Again, maybe lacked that end product. He was 7 or 8 yards out twice, and nothing happened from either of those situations. But but he was part of a much greater whole in the second half, and I think that's the sort of performance you want to see. Maybe not just the first half an hour where they were frantically going at it and they just couldn't find it. You want to see that sort of temperament and that ability to find the balance, and I thought they did that really well second half. So credit where credit's due. I thought at times in the match they absolutely deserved to be winning, and I think coming out of it, it would be unfair to suggest they didn't deserve, on the balance of play, to win that match. But this is a Norwich team that hasn't been able to produce results for a long time, and it's not the time to start coming up with excuses for why they haven't produced results. This should have been an opportunity to go and win the game, and they created that opportunity with their performance, and they just failed to convert it, really. So to take you from sort of the start of the game, that 29th minute, Ben Gibson gives the ball away to Will Keane. He finds James McLean in loads of space. Arguably that's another issue defensively, but loads of space, simple finish, rolls it in. Norwich lose that confidence, come out, as I described, a lot better in the second half, and they scored the goal midway through. I want to say somewhere in the 70s. They found that equaliser, might have been 60s. No, 62nd minute, I remember now. Max Aaron's. It was a lovely move, actually. It was, I think, Pukki found Rashica. Rashica looked to all the world like he was going to shoot, and then had that calmness and that presence, which, as I stated earlier, that balance between urgency and patience, to notice that Max Aaron's was in a better position, rolled Max Aaron's in. Max Aaron's makes it 1-1. And he was up and down the whole game. He was properly involved in the attack. After that, it was attack versus defence. There were a couple of times when it was every Norwich player apart from Krul, every player on the pitch apart from Krul, in the Wigan Athletic half, and they actually looked dangerous. As I mentioned, Hernandez sort of got down the wing, a couple of crosses, almost created a couple of chances. Teemu Pukki smashed the bar. It was actually a lovely move. Sinani fired the ball into Cantwell. He played a nice little ball into Teemu Pukki, and then he sort of curled one, smashed the bar. It looked like it was, it was so close to bouncing down and in to the goal. It's just luck, really, at that point. And Pukki, it would have been classic Pukki after struggling for so long to be involved in the creation of chances, to just smack one in when Norwich needed it the most. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And then we got onto the controversy of the game, because Dean Smith has just come and told us that there should have been 2 red cards for an incident where Max Aaron's was tackled rather heavily in the box. There was a slight touch on the ball, which seems to explain why the referee didn't give a penalty. I think VAR every single time would have given that, and I know probably quite a lot of you are glad that that's not present in the Championship, but Norwich would have benefited from it this season already, I think. And that should have been a penalty. There was one, Josh Sargent got pushed over. I thought maybe that is one. So there were 3 in total, really. One, Ono Hernandez went down. It's just sort of shoulder to shoulder thing. But when the crowd gets going, it does help maybe boost the moment and make it feel like more of a situation than it actually was. Then there was the Josh Sargent push, and then there was the Aaron's. Well, the Aaron's one was actually before the Josh Sargent push, and that should have been a penalty. And Aaron's and Dean Smith were unequivocal about their opinions on that one. I think Aaron's called it a disgrace. He was very fraught when he came out and spoke to us, and he calmed down a little bit throughout that interview. But what didn't calm down was the enormous gash that had opened up on his leg, and that was all the evidence he needed, really. So I thought Norwich were hard done by on that one. There were 10 minutes of added time, and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed, but they just couldn't find that moment. And I think having Josh Sargent on the pitch at times didn't help that. He's the sort of player where it's difficult to decide whether he should be in there or not, because he gets in situations that Norwich players, a lot of them, wouldn't get into just by being physical, by being the sort of imposing figure that he is. But the problem is the technical quality a lot of the time isn't there once he gets there, so it almost feels pointless. It's like if you could grant 10 one-on-ones throughout a game, that would feel like an unbelievable treat. If you have somebody that's never kicked a ball before on the end of them against a professional goalkeeper, it's not really that much of an advantage. And sometimes the Josh Sargent situation feels like a bit of a smaller, less extreme version of that. And you do wonder whether that's I mean, that he didn't start today, and that was probably part of the reasoning, was that Dean Smith knew that Norwich would dominate possession. They're up against a side that a lot of people feel is sort of inferior and isn't going to be competing at the same end of the table as Norwich. So it's probably fair to drop the player who maybe struggles with the technical quality a little bit because of that. So yeah, I'll take you through the team and give my player ratings. Tim Krul in goal. I thought his distribution was better, made a couple more saves. Overall, quite a lot better. Made actually a really good save when Jakob Sørensen gave the ball away in midfield. Will Keane actually chose the wrong option, but it was still a decent chance for Wigan, and Tim Krul pulled off a very good save. So I'd give him a 7. Aaron's an 8, I think. He was his goal was just an example of what he'd been doing all game long, and he was really pushing, just like he was at Cardiff. Credit to him for this season, because he's been fantastic so far, and I think in the Championship he is a good defender. I think he's underrated as a defender, but in the Championship it's reminded me why he was so revered for his attacking play, because both of these games he's really forced the issue and he's really been excellent. So yeah, I'd give him an 8. Andrew Bamidele 7, assured as usual. When Wigan were pumping long balls and it felt like quite an aggressive, high-tempo game, the crowd were whipped up, he still was just controlling the ball on the halfway line like it was nothing, and I was really impressed with his poise. Gibson, I think it has to be a 4, to be honest, because he's given away the goal that changed the game, and I think Norwich win the game if that goal doesn't go in. There was also another mistake that actually didn't get punished early in the second half. It was he gave the ball away in similar fashion, and Wigan just couldn't make the most of the counter-attack that time. Dimitris Giannoulis, that's another issue actually to touch upon. Stretched it off midway through the second half. His injury was so bad to look at that Sky Sports didn't show a replay, and I have seen a replay. It's not the actual tackle, but he was running and he went to stop, and his ankles basically just folded into the turf, and that's never a good sign. He was visibly crying. I think there might even have been gas and air involved at one point, and then he was stretched off. So it doesn't look great at all, especially given Norwich only have one left back option other than Giannoulis, and that's Sam McCallum, who is yet to start a league game for them, having been a Norwich player for more than 3 years. So that's a worrying issue. I think his performance otherwise was decent though, so I'd give him a 6. Jakob Sørensen, another 4. He gave the ball away probably in a worse situation than Gibson, to be honest, and it just didn't get punished. In the Premier League, that would be a goal every single time, and he just doesn't really show that physicality that you need to play in that defensive enforcer midfield role. I don't think he's the player that they thought they were buying when they bought him, unfortunately. Kenny McLean at a 6, a lot of endeavour. Same as usual, really, a lot of energy, but he's not going to be the man. I don't think this was a game to judge him on, because he's just there to try and find Cantwell and Sinani and, Pukki, Rashica, Sarah, Nunez, so that they can go and create for other people. And I thought he did that fairly well. So I can't mark him down for anything there. Rashica, 5. He showed maybe more signs today, and on the counter attack he looked adept, but Norwich didn't get to counter attack that much, and he never actually. I suppose he got the assist. So maybe I'll give him a 6 for the assist, but I think generally he could have done a lot more than he actually did. Nunez, 6. I thought he started really well. Lots of energy, as Dean Smith promised. Lots of quality, actually. His technique is really, really good to watch, really fun to watch, but he just faded, and you can totally understand that. Obviously, he's moved from South America to Norwich this week and not had many training sessions with these players that he's now got to bond with and create for, so you can totally understand that. Cantwell, he came in and out of the game, I thought, a bit not quite as involved as he was at Cardiff, but there were some moments of quality, so I'll give him a 6. Same for Pukki, because if it's an inch lower, you're giving him an 8. So I feel a bit sorry for him, but those are the fine margins at this level of football, and he is a striker that's trusted to finish. So I'll give him a 6. Overall, good signs, and if they can develop those, then I think this game will be seen as hopefully a change in Dean Smith's Norwich City, because we saw a possession-based, high-pressing team and we knew what it was, finally. But if things don't progress in this fashion, it will just be a 1-1 draw against Wigan, and that's a bad result. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they go from here. There's Birmingham on Tuesday in the League Cup, and interestingly enough, Norwich's latest signing, Aaron Ramsey, not that one. It's just down there on the Carrow Road pitch watching Norwich's warm down. So if you'd heard the sounds of a few men shouting, that's what it is. And I'm looking forward to watching him. I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on Tuesday. And then they head to Hull. I think Hull will be a really interesting test. And if they develop this style of play and if they look the same, I think, first of all, if they put in the same level of performance, I think they'll win. And it will be really encouraging to see that consistency of performance and ideals and tactical setup. So I think this is given hope. Finally, I've got something good to talk about. It feels strange after a 1-1 draw with Wigan, but, you know, we've got to find the optimism from somewhere. And after a 1-0 drab loss in Cardiff, I think a 1-1 draw at home, it could be worse. There you go. That's the most embellishment I can give this result, because at the end of the day, it's not fantastic. But yeah, good signs. Let's see what they produce from now on. Thank you for joining me. Pink and Plus app for all the analysis, debate, discussion, all the details from the match. We got pointers on there, 6 things to come in the morning, and then 6 things to come on Monday, and a player watch tomorrow morning that's subscriber exclusive. So if you don't want to miss those, which I'm sure you don't, the Pink and Plus app is the place to go. Thank you for watching, and keep it locked to Pink and channels. Cheers.